it's been more than 2 weeks since the deadline closed for small businesses to apply for another provincial support grant. Yet many are still waiting for that funding. And while restrictions have lifted, some businesses say their hardships are not yet over and they really need that money.
As far as we know, our application process went smoothly. We did get the grants on the first 2 rounds last year, so we clearly are eligible for them this time around as well. And yet it's been crickets from the provincial government. We've reached out to our MPP who's looking into it.
John Sinopoli is the co-founder of Ascari Hospitality Group, which owns 3 Toronto restaurants, a retail shop, and catering company. He's expecting some money from this year's Ontario Small Business Relief Grant.
Grant is not nearly enough at only $10,000 per business, because at some of our places it doesn't even cover a month's rent. But it is money that would be incredibly useful for help us make payroll. I mean, the pandemic is not over. There's a lot of hesitancy out there in the consumer community, and we're still getting back on our feet.
Sinopoli received 2 previous Ontario Small Business Support Grants from the government last year, which differ from the 2022 grant. So did Hamilton Yoga Studio owner and instructor Anna Muzzin, who is confused by the current process.
When they announced that the 3rd round of the relief grants were being issued, they said that anyone who had received it in the first 2 rounds was pre-screened. We were pre-screened, but there wasn't really any indication of what that meant.
Muzzin said she didn't apply for the 2nd grant. It was just given to her. She expected the same for this round, but she still hasn't heard anything, which is frustrating.
All of the restrictions have changed our client base completely. You know, I went from having, 35 to 40 registered students to having 10 to 15. And, it's coming back up now as the restrictions are easing. It's starting to come back, but it's really hard to live off of half the client base.
The frustration and confusion is in part because the 2022 relief grant is different from the 2 rounds of support grants offered in 2021. And this latest grant isn't simply a 3rd installment. In a statement, the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade reminded business owners there's also different eligibility criteria than the previous grants. For example, businesses that were allowed to stay open with capacity restrictions or didn't fully close indoor operations aren't eligible for the 3rd grant. They further add, as of Wednesday, March 23rd, the Government of Ontario has provided more than $155 million to help over 15,500 eligible small businesses across the province through the Ontario Small Business Relief Grant. We continue to process applications and thank all applicants for their patience.
We got that grant money fairly quickly last year. This time around, for some reason, it's like molasses.
The ministry says business owners who need to contact them to discuss their applications can do so at Ontario Small Business Relief Grant 1 at ontario.ca. We have that website on our website as well, citynews.ca/extras. Now, we did speak to a few other business owners who have said that they have received their grants. However, it did take a little longer this time around.